I am literally sitting here right now, phone in hand, eyes locked on the screen, and I am still absolutely trembling. My heart is hammering so fast I can feel it pulsing in my throat, and I just had to hit record, because if I don't pour every single one of these thoughts out of my head this very second, I am genuinely going to combust. I just witnessed the final free skate of the men's competition at the 2026 World Championships in Prague, and I am completely, utterly speechless. Well, obviously not speechless, because words are currently tumbling out of my mouth at full speed, but you understand what I mean. I am just so thoroughly overwhelmed with emotion, with pride, and with pure, unfiltered disbelief. Ilia, if you ever hear this, and I sincerely hope you do, once the absolute whirlwind of media obligations, press tours, doping control, and medal ceremonies finally settles, I need you to understand something. You just shattered the universe. You fractured the very foundation of figure skating tonight, and you did it in the most magnificent way imaginable. 329.4. I keep repeating that number out loud to myself in my living room, and it still refuses to register as something real. It sounds like a glitch in the international judging system. It sounds like someone at the technical panel accidentally rested their elbow on the keyboard and tacked on an extra digit. But it is real. That is your score. You are the 2026 World Champion, and you claimed that title by delivering a performance that biomechanics professors and skating coaches are going to be dissecting in classrooms and seminars for the next half-century. I want to take a massive step back and properly set the scene for tonight, because to truly appreciate how staggering 329.4 actually is, we have to examine what was unfolding inside the O2 arena before you ever set foot on the ice. The men's field right now is the deepest, most ferociously talented collection of skaters I believe this sport has ever assembled. The technical baseline has been elevated so dramatically that what would have earned an Olympic gold medal a decade ago wouldn't even crack the top 5 today. I was watching Adam Sayem Fosgate, and his program was an absolute masterpiece of contemporary choreography. He wove acrobatics and raw, visceral emotion into every movement in a way that is extraordinarily difficult to execute while simultaneously landing quadruple jumps. He posted a 271.56. Then Steven Gogolev took the ice, and watching him finally deliver the skate of his life after enduring so many setbacks, injuries, growth spurts, the relentless grind of recovery was genuinely beautiful. He scored a 281.04. And then came Shun Sato, whose jumping technique is essentially the textbook definition of perfection. The sheer explosive power and crisp snap he generates on his rotations drove his score to 288.54. The tension inside that building was already suffocating, even watching from thousands of miles away through a screen. But then Yuma Kagayama stepped onto the ice. Ilia, I know you know this better than anyone. Yuma is a skater from another dimension entirely. The way he communes with the ice surface, the articulation of his knees, the effortless way he absorbs the landings of his quadruple jumps so silently that you can barely detect the blade kissing the frozen surface that is the very definition of world-class skating skills. Yuma delivered a free program so flawless, so poetic, so technically merciless that when his score of 307 illuminated the scoreboard, my stomach physically dropped. I was genuinely deeply happy for Yuma. But as your friend, as someone who knows intimately what it feels like to stand in that tunnel and hear the crowd erupt for the skater ahead of you, I was terrified for you. A score above 300 is a massive psychological wall. When the competitor directly in front of you drops a number like that, the air evacuates the room. The pressure multiplies. You understand with crystalline clarity that you cannot afford a single lapse, you cannot pop a jump, stumble through a step sequence, or surrender a level on a spin. You have to be flawless. And not merely flawless, you have to be transcendent. And then they called your name. I was watching your face as you pulled off your skate guards and handed them to Roth. You looked so profoundly different from the young skater I used to share practice ice with at US Nationals. Back then, there was this frantic, almost restless energy radiating off you before you competed like you just wanted the music to start so you could get through the jumps and exhale. But tonight in Prague, beneath the brightest lights in the world, you looked like a stone-cold assassin. You glided to the center of the rink, assumed your opening position, and the entire arena went dead silent. The tension could have been sliced with a blade. And then the music began. Let's talk about the quadruple axel, because I genuinely need to pause here and address the biomechanics of what you are doing. Because I think casual viewers see you land it and they cheer, but they don't fully grasp the sheer physical impossibility of that jump. As someone who trained the triple axel, I understand viscerally how terrifying it is to launch from a forward edge. You are propelling your entire body off a single razor-thin sliver of steel, hurling yourself blind into the air, and you must generate sufficient rotational velocity to spin 4.5 full revolutions before gravity reclaims you. It all happens in under a second. The fast-twitch muscle fiber required to snap into that rotational axis with such ferocity, combined with the spatial awareness needed to know precisely where you are mid-air so you can open up and check out onto a backward outside edge. That is something sports scientists once declared categorically outside the boundaries of human capability. But you did it. You launched skyward. Your axis was impossibly tight, and you landed it with such extraordinary flow that you didn't merely survive the contact with the ice, you rode the edge out like you owned it. The arena detonated, and you didn't even flinch. You were locked in a completely separate reality. But Ilia, what reduced me to tears tonight wasn't the quadruple axel. It wasn't the fact that you immediately pivoted and launched into a quadruple Lutz triple toe loop combination with the elevation of a pole vaulter. It was what lived in the spaces between those jumps. For years, you carried the label of the Quad God. It was a thrilling nickname, and you had absolutely earned it through relentless technical innovation, but it was also a weight because it handed critics a ready-made excuse to dismiss your artistry. People used to claim you were nothing more than a jumping machine. They insisted you lacked the skating skills, the transitions, the genuine emotional connection to the music, and I know exactly how deeply that frustrated you. I know how many grueling hours you invested in refining your edge quality, how many endless stroking drills you endured, how many sessions you spent with choreographers softening your upper body movement, taking dance classes, learning how to hold a line and extend your free leg with intentionality and grace. Figure skating is a profoundly demanding and somewhat ruthless discipline. It requires you to simultaneously perform at the level of an Olympic gymnast and a principal ballet dancer. But tonight, the entire world finally witnessed the artist. Your step sequence was breathtaking. You were channeling the swells of the music through every inch of your body. The depth of the edges you carved through your brackets and counters, the velocity you sustained throughout those intricate turns, without ever betraying a hint of struggle that is the unmistakable mark of a true champion. And your Ina Bauer when you arched your back and glided the full width of the arena in that moment of pure theatrical climax, it was nothing short of magical. You communicated something to everyone in that building. You are no longer just a jumper. You are a complete, breathtakingly well-rounded figure skater. The physical toll of a men's free skate is something I'm always trying to convey to people, and your performance tonight is the ultimate illustration of human endurance. By the halfway point of that program, your lungs are ablaze. It feels like inhaling through a cocktail straw. The lactic acid flooding your thighs is screaming at you to stop. Every jump from that moment forward feels exponentially harder because your legs are made of concrete. But you had deliberately stacked the back half of your program with formidable difficulty to maximize base value and capitalize on that 10% second half bonus. When you loaded into the quadruple salchow, I held my breath. I know how temperamental the timing on a salchow becomes when your body is operating on fumes. But you floated it. And then the triple axel Euler triple salchow combination. That sequence is a leg destroyer of the highest order. To land the axel, transition onto the opposite edge, and immediately demand that your exhausted body generate another 3 revolutions requires a level of athletic stamina that borders on the absurd. You landed it, and your arms flung outward, and I could see the labored breathing, but you pushed straight through it into the closing spin combination. The crowd was already on its feet. 15,000 people in Prague were standing, clapping in unison to the rhythm of your music, and you were rotating so fast you became a blur of blue and silver. When you struck your final pose, head thrown back, arms flung wide, the raw, unguarded emotion that poured out of you was so honest and so real. Watching you bend forward, hands dropping to your knees, gasping for air, and then finally breaking into a smile, a genuine, exhausted, triumphant smile, was everything. The cascade of stuffed animals and flowers raining down onto the ice was glorious. And I loved watching you skate to the boards and dissolve into a massive embrace with Raphael. Raph is a legendary coach who demands everything from his skaters. He is not someone who dispenses praise casually. So to see him beaming with that quiet, deep pride, knowing that the master blueprint he constructed for you over 4 years had executed flawlessly, that was a profoundly beautiful moment. And your parents, oh my goodness. Seeing Tatiana and Roman in the kiss and cry, 2 people who understand this sport at its most ruthless and intimate level, who know firsthand the heartbreak and sacrifice and sheer relentless cost of reaching the top of the podium to have them seated beside you, Holding your hands as you waited for those numbers is a memory you will carry with you for the rest of your life. The wait for the scores felt like a small eternity. The broadcast kept cycling between slow-motion replays of the quadruple axel and close-ups of your anxious expression. We all knew you had won. We all understood, mathematically, technically, and artistically, that you had just produced the greatest free skate in the recorded history of this sport. But until those numbers physically materialize on that screen, your mind refuses to grant you the relief of believing it. When the technical element score appeared, my jaw went slack. It was a figure that genuinely should not exist. And then the program component scores followed. The judges finally, fully acknowledged all the artistic labor you have poured into yourself. 9s and 10s cascading across the board for skating skills, composition, and presentation. And then the cumulative total, 329.4. You buried your face in your hands. I started crying on my couch. You surpassed Yuma's extraordinary performance by over 22 points. That isn't simply winning, that is total, comprehensive domination. That is carving out an entirely new stratosphere in the sport that, at this particular moment, only you inhabit. I keep drifting back to when we were younger US training camps, miserable 6 a.m. sessions in freezing rinks, complaining about breaking in stiff new boots, dealing with blisters and layers of tape, navigating the relentless pressure of the US figure skating system. When you're a promising kid in this world, everyone has an opinion on how you should train, what music you should perform to, what your body should look like. It is so disorienting and so easy to drown in the noise and let the weight of expectations quietly crush you. But you always possessed this unshakable internal compass. You always knew, with absolute certainty, what you were capable of even when the rest of the world insisted it was impossible. You willed this reality into existence. You kept your head down, tuned out the skeptics, trusted your coaches unconditionally, and outworked every single person on the planet. I know the sacrifices you've made. I know the birthdays you sat out, the social gatherings you skipped, the disciplined nutrition, the hours in the gym grinding through plyometrics until your legs gave out beneath you, the ice baths, the endless physical therapy. This gold medal, this 2026 World Championship title, is the culmination of a lifetime of singular, uncompromising dedication. You have elevated American figure skating to a pinnacle we haven't occupied in decades. The pressure on US men to deliver consistently on the world stage is immense, and you have shouldered that burden with extraordinary grace and power. You are igniting something in an entire generation of young skaters right now. There are children at local rinks across the country lacing up their boots today who are going to leap a little higher and spin a little faster because they watched Ilia Malinin do the impossible in Prague. You have permanently altered the trajectory of this sport. Nobody can ever claim again that the quadruple axel is beyond human reach. Nobody can ever insist again that you cannot be a technical virtuoso and a genuine artist simultaneously. You dismantled every single one of those arguments, and you did it on the grandest stage in the world. So please, for the love of everything, give yourself permission to breathe tonight. I know the media is going to pull you in 50 directions at once, that every journalist wants their interview, and that fans are gathering outside your hotel right now losing their minds. But carve out a moment, sit alone in your room with that gold medal, study the ribbon, feel how heavy it is in your hands, let it fully sink in. You are the world champion. No one, not ever, can strip that from you. Go find the most indulgent, gloriously unhealthy meal Prague has to offer. Sleep. Celebrate with your family. Celebrate with the entire US team. And know that everyone back home is screaming their hearts out for you. I am so indescribably proud to call you my friend and my teammate. You are a legend, Ilia. A living, breathing legend. Congratulations on every single bit of it. You earned this completely and absolutely. Now go savor your moment, Quad God. You are on top of the world.